All right, so what I want to talk about here is Million, Ronan, and then kind of to a lesser extent, Ben Teese. And so you can instantly see if you fast forward, I think to about 2 minutes and 20 seconds in this clip, you'll see what happens here, and just a complete and utter breakdown. Part of that is body positioning on our defenders' parts. If you look in this still, just look how much they kind of are facing each other, right? And so Mill, you almost need to, when you get the ball there, you almost need to kind of fake a pass to Henry and keep your body open to him more in order to lure the Glenlawn team to that side if you intend on using Roman. And so the idea here is good. We go back to Mill and then we want to get out into that 2v1 with Ben, Thiessen, and Ronan, but we don't. And again, that's down to Ronan, kind of his body position, forcing him to play inside instead of opening up and playing outside to Ben. In addition to that, we can look at Ben Thiessen, whose positioning should be in order to take it full advantage of the 2v1. It should be just a bit higher, but not so high that their defender comes to them. Okay. So again, we'll watch this clip kind of play out, and Ronan tries to kind of force it in the middle to Ben Meyer, who's Ben Meyer, even though he probably wants the ball here, he's done a great job and he shouldn't touch the ball because if you look, he's got within, 5 feet of him, he's got two guys, and then within 5 yards of himself, he's got three guys. And so what he's doing is opening space around the outsides, and that's space that we should be using. Um, the whole idea at the end of the day here is eventually we need Henry to be getting on the ball and scoring, but that's through Ben Thiessen's attack. So again, body position, also being able to use Joe will stretch out their striker a bit more, and it'll give it bit more negative depth. Um, right now, Roman and Mill being tight kind of forces us to it's a triangle as opposed to a diamond, which but you'll see here, and really, if this guy kind of made his stuff, so we got lucky here. I don't think it resulted in anything, but I think if you look at our defensive structure right now, I think you can see the problem. So first off, we have four guys lined up vertically. Okay, Henry's the only one who isn't. Second, uh, our two defenders being lined up vertically is just oof, that's just a lot. If we were to zoom out a bit here, and if you go back, you'll see that one of the Glenlawn players made a run from left to right, dragged Million over. I think Million was trying to tell Ronan to hey drop off and take this guy, and really that is what should have been happening because if Glenlawn was smart here, they'd just play the ball up the line and they'd be absolutely threatening us. So the way it kind of works is if we're going to press, we got to press, right? So if we're going to play in their half, the pressure needs to be coming from two, three people. If we're not, it's okay if Henry drops. It's okay if Mill and Ronan drop. It's okay if we just kind of sit back and let them do this. But we can't half press and let them do this. Okay. So I think it doesn't really develop that much. I think they actually switch it back the other way. So if they were smart here, the goalie would play it onto this player's left foot so he could face forward. That's the one that I'm talking about. And then he would just like whip a ball down the right off the hop because if you see, there's a little diagonal run coming in, and it would get to him right about halfway or so. So again, talking and listening, right? So if Million's yelling at Ronan, hey, you got to drop, I got to stay here to cover this zone, then you just got to do it. Okay. And we can sort out, like, as long as we are trying to arrange that ourselves, good, right? But this is just a simple, like, well, are we man marking? Are we zone marking? And it's just something that we got to kind of grab hold of and figure out because against better teams, they're going to be rotating on us, right? And so also, if you look at kind of how Glenlawn's playing it right now, this is what I was talking about when I said, like, okay, like we got to use Joe a lot. We got to trust him with the ball. We got to just bounce it between the back three. Okay. And that's like obviously much easier if we're not getting pressed like we did. Uh, so, against other teams, we'll have to look at that. We're going to go ahead. I'm probably going to jump ahead the film now to where Million was talking about at halftime. All right, so this is exactly what Million observed, and he had a really good read of it. So what he told me at halftime was, okay, so this one striker is parked kind of in between our little triangle at the back there, and I think the problem is just that is that our triangle at the back isn't a triangle at all. So again, Ben T, I believe, or is that Aaron? Either way, our left mid right now is just absolutely killing the space for our left back if that left moves up and maybe kind of drags his man and also maybe starts to overload their other defender, then all of a sudden we're going to have a billion more options, right? And so we have a couple solutions here. Drag, right? And then just let, I think that's Daniel who's playing left back. Let Daniel get the ball and let him start to dictate things. Um, and also it will create that triangle out of the back with Jose, Joe, and Dan. And then we'll also be able to kind of, we'll be able to progress the game more because now we're not playing four guys in front. Like it's essentially, if you kind of look how we're set up right now, we're almost playing like four back in like a weird box formation and one striker defending. So if we create more depth, we'll have an easier time getting out. I know sometimes you're kind of thinking like, oh man, what am I going to do here? Like, if Dan gets the ball, I need to be close enough that we can make a play together, blah, blah. Sometimes if you can drag a guy and give Daniel the space to make something happen, we'll have just as much success. Okay, so Daniel can come up. I bet you that number seven that just got on there, he'd probably chase him. And that's fine. Daniel can put on his foot on it after dragging number seven higher and use Joe again. And then maybe we go to Jose. And I believe that's Henry on the right side. He's doing the same thing for Jose, right? Like you're kind of taking away their space. So here, there's a couple ways to solve this. You can, if you're the mid, you can pinch in a bit and get really tight. Maybe not really tight. Give yourselves maybe 10 meters, apart from each other. And that'll give Dan the outside. Or you can get really wide and try to drag your man outside and give your defender the inside. Okay. So again, it comes back to just our starting positions within this formation were not conducive for us getting out. And the problem with a 2-2-1 is that exactly what you're seeing here is that if the players don't understand how to play together, then they take away each other's space. So what you need to remember, and this is probably the biggest thing for this whole game, is that those players, the left side right back, or the left side back and the left side mid, have to play diagonal. So one takes line, one comes inside. And if the other one doesn't do that, then we have to reach it back. terms of technicals, I was going to use the gold team game to actually book that a bit more. But we got burned quite a few times on our first touch here. And really, just what I kind of want to say is Aaron's about to get the ball. He's under a ton of pressure. And, he kind of doesn't push the ball into space, right? Jose, as well, even though I know it's kind of a tricky ball to deal with, trying to push the ball into an empty space instead of just kind of bounce it to Aaron, you'll have more success with that. It happened with Henry too on a pretty good opportunity where Aaron was running up the middle earlier, and then Henry kind of gets taken out by a guy who's tracking back, which ideally never should happen, right? Like we should always be able to touch the ball forward on the counter and move forward if we have the space to do so. So again, just focusing on being able to make your first touch into space, especially in a game like this where you're under a ton of pressure. That'll be very valuable for us. So we're about to see one of their goals, and this happened twice to Ben already in this game. Once really really early on, but he's a bit out of position here, which is fine. But the recognition needs to be that this guy right now, in the spot that he's in, is not a threat. So what you're about to see is a little quick bounce pass, but Ben is committing because he's trying to play catch up defensively to try to, kind of make amends for the fact that he's just a bit out of position. He also needs to understand that there's a guy behind him. Millions accounting a bit for that, but Million you should have been pressed up a little higher too on the original shooter. Um, but you'll see in a second exactly why it's important to recognize what's dangerous and when. And so right now, this guy's not dangerous. You'll see in about 3 seconds, he's going to get very dangerous. So they're about to bang another one at us. And you're going to find right away that our positioning and everything that I kind of talked about, it's been a recurring theme, right? So if you look here, defensively, we are just completely out of sorts. Ben is trying to take the outside guy. Nobody's on the inside guy. Millions playing like a sweeper. And again, communication, but also an understanding of the roles that need to happen while we're playing the game. So, for instance, here, either way, it's okay. If Million wants to step into midfield and take the guy who's on the ball now and put a bit of pressure on, great. Ben definitely has the outside guy. If Ben wants to step in, then Million cheats over a bit, and then we kind of have like it's a bit vertical, but it's still fine, right? But right now, nobody's doing anything for us, and it is going to lead to a pretty crappy goal. Um, so again, it's just a matter of taking charge of the situation, telling your kind of direct partners, so in this case, Mill telling Ben or Ben telling Mill what needs to happen, and then doing it, right? Typically, what we should be defaulting to is midfielders inside defensively, because, you know, like typically the way it'll work in indoors, if the ball does go outside, it'll be a long ball over the top into a corner where a defender can get to it, and then we'll still have the coverage in the middle, right? If midfielders start playing super wide in defense and then getting dragged around, we're kind of just exposed, and you see it happen here. So what you're about to see here is Jordy does a good job pressing, but what needs to happen is like an after effect, right? So typically, everybody thinks press, win the ball, shoot the ball, yay, we did a successful counter press and ta-da. What you can do though, if you've got one guy pressing, as we're going to see with Jordy, is he should be cutting off the keeper on this ball out here. So in a moment, you'll see the ball roll to the right. Jordy's going to run and try to prevent the dribble, but if you would have looked, he would have seen we've got three back there versus one, and it's not really an issue right now. So next time, what I'd like Jordy to do is make sure that that ball can't go back to the other defender or their keeper again, right? Make play predictable. Then our other four, they can adjust, and we can kind of set up a trap for the player to get run into. So what we're about to see here is another kind of goal kick where we didn't have any ideas and we lose the ball right away. So Joe gets it down. Dan and I don't know who the left back is right now, but you guys need to push, and you ideally need to push beyond that striker that's doing the press there. Okay. So that way, when you get it, you don't have to worry about him as much, right? If Joe were to play to Dan a couple seconds here, and like Dan's kind of level with Joe, then Dan, he still's got to deal with the striker. So get higher, push your mids up, demand them to give you space, and then, furthermore, we'll be able to sort that out as we see fit. So we're about to see it again here, just the first touch thing. So first of all, Joe's got to set Noah up better. Second of all, Noah has to start higher. Aaron has to start higher. And then, Noah, you need to take touch with your left foot here and play yourself forward, right? Because if Aaron's higher, if somebody's near him, he'll drag them, and you should be able to play forward. Okay? Good? Hopefully. So, big thing here is just, again, setting yourself up for the first touch. Right now, we're not in a good position to continue the attack. So we have to go back to Joe. Dan needs to take it with his left, touch it backwards, roll it to Joe, and then we just reset the whole thing, right? Again, Aaron kind of has something here, but like if you look in this frame, if and Dan's looking up, so Dan sees this. Yeah, you can kind of roll it out to Aaron, but if Aaron's facing the sideline, he's got nowhere to go. He's essentially just kind of not like he's essentially playing for a foul at that point. So if we can reset, restart, then we'll have much greater fortunes, right? And again, too, there's far too, the defense are just far too close to Aaron to be able to make effective. A player like Aaron needs to be, you need to recognize that where he wants the ball and how he wants the ball is he wants it in space with his head up, right? That's why, as he likes playing Shutter and defensive because he's able to get into those positions where he can attack with his head up and run. I think last or two practices ago, yeah, two practices ago, he did that out to you as like kind of the end of the scrimmage. He smashed one in and he was able to do it. So, as good of friends as Dan and Aaron, it kind of shows me that the understanding isn't there to get Aaron in a position where he's going to be able to dominate the